Hey friends, welcome to Homegrown Florida. I'm Patrina, and today I'm going to show you 4 different styles of gardening that you can do, whether you're a beginner and you're just starting a brand new garden, or whether you are wanting to expand your current garden. This is the video to watch. I'm going to tell you everything you need to buy for your particular garden, as well as the return on investment that you should expect to get from each one of these types of gardens, including how much time it's going to take you to get that return. When I did this assessment, I wanted to put a couple assumptions in. The first one is I wanted it to be easy to find the products that you need to buy. So I went to the big box stores. So your Home Depots, your Lowe's, your Ace Hardware, even Amazon, right? I wanted it to be where you got everything in one spot rather than having to, get it from lots of different places or build it yourself. I wanted it to be easy. So all of the prices that I've listed are things that you can buy in the store. Now, that does mean that they are going to cost a little bit more. There are plenty of ways to bring down the cost of all of the items that I'm going to talk about. And I have a whole nother video that I'll put at the end of this video that shows you how to do that in case these prices end up being a little bit too high for you in your home. The other assumption that I made was that this would not be an organic garden. Organic gardens can be a little bit more expensive. The seeds are a little more expensive, the soil is a little more expensive, and the fertilizer is a little more expensive. So I wanted to reduce the barriers of entry, and so I picked a synthetic fertilizer and traditional seeds. So you can always substitute these out for regular organic products, but this is the way that I wanted to go just to make it easier for folks. And then the last assumption I did was based on the estimate of the harvest. So I used a very conservative estimate to determine how much the harvest was going to be of what you're growing. And the reason I did this is, well, if you're a beginner gardener, things don't always work out the way that you hope when you first start, as well as, Florida is a gardening area that can be challenging. So I didn't want to put like these huge harvests that some of our neighbors up in the northern states experience that you may not. So I got really conservative with it. Also, I based the cost of the harvest on a Kroger Foods. I don't think we have Kroger's down here in Florida, but they are an inexpensive grocery chain, and so I wanted to use them rather than maybe a more expensive grocery chain like Publix or Whole Foods or Sprouts, which tend to be just a tiny bit more expensive. So I hope this all helps. Let's jump into our first garden setup, which is individual container gardening. So I love to do lots of container gardening. It is great for beginners. It is easy entry into gardening, and the cost is one of the lowest. Out of the 4 that we're doing today, it is one of 2 that is the lowest cost to start. I grow all kinds of plants in containers. I have leafy greens, flowers, herbs, tomatoes, like a fruiting plant, and then I even grow fruit trees in containers. So they're very versatile. They come in a million different sizes and styles and shapes and colors. But for today's exercise, I wanted to focus on a container that grows a large amount of things, has a low cost to purchase, and that would be grow bags. Grow bags are like a canvas cloth style bag, and it's usually round and it has handles, and it does allow the water to flow through it very, very easily. That's one of the reasons why I love them. Second, they are very inexpensive. So for the grow bags I found at a big box store, you get a 10-gallon grow bag, or sorry, 6 10-gallon grow bags for $20.99. The next thing that you need in order to grow is soil. You can build your own, of course. There's compost, there's dirt already in your yard, there's lots of ways that you can do it for less expensive money. But let's just go based on a 1.5 cubic foot bag. That's those big bags of soil. Each 10-gallon grow bag is going to require about a little less than one of these bags. So we're going to need 6 bags. And they're each, cheapest one I found was $9.97. You may be able to find them for less, but this is the one that I based it on. So that is probably the biggest part of the cost for growing in containers. The next thing that you're going to need is fertilizer, and this is where you can go organic or not. In my calculation, I picked the Miracle-Gro water-soluble 4.25 pound fertilizer, and it was $11.97. Then of course you need seeds, and we're going to be growing 6 different kinds of plants that I'll tell you about in 1 second. We're growing these throughout all the 4 different setups. Seeds range from $1.69 to $1.99 at the big box stores. So 3 of the ones that I selected were $1.69, 3 were $1.99. A couple of the items that we're going to be growing are climbing plants. The most inexpensive way that I could find to buy something that it can climb is a tomato cage. Now, tomato cage, traditionally people are used to using them for tomatoes, but I have used them for lots of things, for cucumbers, for peas, all kinds of stuff. They work pretty good. So in this particular example, we're going to get 1 cage, and it is $4.98. And then the last thing you need is a bag of mulch. One of the cypress mulches, not the rubber wooded spray colored ones, but just a standard cypress mulch, came out to $2.97 for a bag, which should cover all of your pots. Now we're going to talk about what you're going to plant. So the 6 plants that I picked was lettuce, kale, peas, peppers, tomatoes, and cucumbers. For the lettuce, you can grow 8 plants into one of the 10-gallon grow bags. For kale, you're just going to do 1. For peas, you can do 12 plants, so 12 seeds. For the peppers, which are sweet peppers, the little small ones, you can grow 2 plants in one 10-gallon grow bag. Don't do any more than that. It's almost borderline with the 2. Tomatoes, we're going to do cherry tomatoes, and you can only grow 1 in each grow bag. And then cucumbers, a vining type that grows upwards, you can do 2. You could also do a bush style, but I based this on a vining style because they do produce a little bit more. Now let me tell you how much this generates over a 3-month period. So if you're growing these plants, and all of these should be able to grow in fall and spring. Some of them aren't so great for the winter months, like tomatoes and cucumbers, or even peas if you get frost, but a lot of these should be able to overlap each other, and that way you can have a whole salad. That's why I picked these guys, and we do have fall coming up, so this is an excellent way to start thinking and planning for your fall garden. So for the lettuce, we can assume that you're going to get about 6 ounces of lettuce from each plant if you're using the cut and come again method. And then I'm expecting that you can go back and do 3 cuts. This is typical with lettuce if you're using a cut and come again method. You should be able to get a total of 9 pounds of lettuce from those plants during that 3-month period, and that saves you $47.37. Kale, you should be able to get 2 pounds from the kale through the whole season. Kale is a cut and come again plant. It's only 1 plant, but if you just keep cutting the leaves, and cutting the leaves, you will eventually get to that 2 pound. And that saves you $5.98. The next one is snow peas. Snow peas, you don't just eat the inside like a regular pea. Snow pea, you eat the whole pod. So that usually increases the return on investment that you're going to get. So snow peas, you should be able to get about 360 pods. I know it sounds crazy, but these guys produce a lot, especially if you pick them often. That's 72 pods per pound. That equals about 5 pounds. That should get you $34.90 worth of snow peas. The sweet pepper should get you about 10 peppers total, and that will equal $7.98 of savings. Cherry tomatoes should give you a total of 6 pounds off of the 1 plant, and that should be about $36.38. And cucumbers should give you about 12 cucumbers off of the 2 plants, so 6 each. That's a savings of $8.28. So as a total ROI, your purchase price is $111.77. Your ROI, or what you're getting back in savings from your vegetables, is $93.52. That means it will take you 4 months, not 3, you can't do it in one season, but 4 months to get your return on investment from an individual container garden. Let's go to the second one. We're going to be talking about a raised bed garden. So the next garden setup is a raised bed garden, like this one right here. This one has a trellis on it, so that is not included in this setup, but the actual bed is. So let's go through the cost. So the first thing you need is the actual bed. And I did find a bed that's very similar to this one at Home Depot that they sell for about $60. And also in my Amazon store, which is down in the description of this video, I actually have this particular bed that they'll ship straight to your house, and it is $54.99 as of today. All of these prices are as of today. And it's no special sales or anything like that. All of the prices that I'm mentioning are things that I found right on their website or right in their store. The next big thing that you're gonna need for a raised garden bed is soil. There are a ton of different ways to fill a raised bed. Some are a lot less expensive, but I'm trying to do this in the easiest way possible with the less effort, and that's gonna be bags of soil. It's gonna take 18 bags of soil. Same bags of soil that we talked about before that were $9.97. So that is a bulk majority part of the price. The next thing that you need is the same thing, fertilizer, mulch, but this time you need 2 bags versus 1. The same seeds, 3 at $1.69 and 3 at $1.99. And the biggest difference between this one and the container gardening, besides the soil and the raised bed, is you're going to need 4 cages, because we can grow a lot more things in a raised bed than you can in the individual containers. So you need 4 of those at $4.98. Now let's jump to how much you make with the same crops. So we're growing all the same things, but at different quantities. So for the lettuce, we're gonna do 7 square feet. So 7 1 by 1 by 1 square feet of a raised bed. And that means you can get 28 lettuce plants. That equals a harvest of $165.81 of savings. The kale, you're gonna use 5 square feet, which is 5 plants at $29.90 of savings. The sugar snap peas, you can do 5 square feet with 8 in each square feet. So that means 40 plants with a savings of $116.32. The sweet peppers, you can do 5 square feet, so 5 plants, and that gives you a savings of $19.95. And then there's 5 cherry tomato square feet, so 5 plants, at $181.92. And last but not least, we're gonna give 5 square feet to the cucumbers and 2 per square feet. That means 10 plants. That's gonna give you a savings of $41.40. And the cucumbers are the ones that need the cages. I only picked 4 because the way that cucumbers grow, you can grow the 5 square feet and put the cages, the 4 cages, in a almost diamond style, and you can kind of train them to grow up those 4 rather than having to get a 5th one. So the total cost for a raised bed garden, one single raised bed, is $283.32. The savings from all the food that we are growing that one season of 3 months is $555.30. So it only takes a month and a half. After, of course, you've grown them, it only takes a month and a half of harvesting to get your money back on a raised garden bed. Now this one, I can attest to its legitimacy. This is the one I based a lot of the numbers on because I calculate how much I grow every single month, and this does equal about that amount. Next up, let's take a look at a little bit different of a garden style, and that's going to be another type of container, but it's going to be a vertical container. Now the next garden setup on the list are these 2 guys right behind me, and these are vertical Greenstalks. So the first thing that we need to purchase is the actual vertical garden, the Greenstalk. It is $149 for the original, and they have 5 tiers, which equals 30 pockets, so 6 pockets per tier. The next thing that I suggest that you get is this thing right here, which is the support. It's kind of going to take the place of the tomato cage, and it's going to hold up some of our vining plants. That is $24 each. We're only buying 1. The next thing you need is soil. Each one of the tiers is going to need a full bag of soil, so that's 5 bags of soil at $9.97 each. We're going to do the same with the fertilizer, the mulch, and the seeds as we did in our regular individual container garden. So fertilizers $11.97, seeds are 3 at $1.69 and 3 at $1.99, and then the mulch is just 1 bag at $2.97. Now the biggest difference between a Greenstalk vertical planter and an individual container is the amount of plants that you can grow in these things. It is crazy. You only need 2 square feet of actual width space, and then you need about 5 feet of height. Now I only put 4 tiers on mine. Let me see here. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, I only put 4 tiers on mine because if I were to put the 5th, I would have a hard time dumping the water over top. But maybe you're not as short as me and maybe that's not a big deal. So we're gonna assume that you're using all 5 tiers. So from the same plant list, the only thing that we're removing is cucumbers. And that's because we only have 5 tiers and I wanted to use the tiers more appropriately. Instead of having half a tier with one thing and the other half with another thing, I thought we'd get our biggest buck by removing the cucumbers from this particular equation. So you can do 3 lettuce plants, cut and come again lettuce, or loose leaf lettuce. You can do 3 per pocket, and we're going to do 1 whole tier of lettuce, so that's 18 plants. That's going to get you about $88.83 of savings. Now the kale, we're going to do 1 tier, and we're going to put a plant in each one of the pockets. So we're going to say 6 pockets, so we're going to say $29.90 for savings. The sugar snap peas are also 3 per pocket, and we're going to do an entire tier of that, so that's 18. So that gives you 450-ish pods, and that equals $43.62 of savings. The next one is sweet peppers. So we're going to do 1 each in each pocket of 1 tier, so that's 6 plants. That's going to give you $19.95 of savings. And then cherry tomatoes, we're also going to do 5 plants, each one giving you about 6 pounds of tomatoes each. That's $181.92 of savings. So the total cost to build this garden is $248.83 for all of the products that we talked about having to buy. And then the ROI, or the saving that you're going to get back from your harvest, is $364.22 in a 3-month period. So that means it takes 2 months to get your money back on a vertical Greenstalk garden. Now we're going to move on to probably one of the easiest and least expensive way to start a garden, and that is in-ground gardening. In-ground gardening is probably the easiest way to start. There are some drawbacks, and there's a reason why a lot of people here in Florida or our southern states don't jump to an in-ground garden first. And it's one of the reasons I don't grow in-ground here in Florida, except for things like this bed right here, which is my native Florida garden. And of course I do a lot of fruit trees and berry bushes in ground as well, where I amend that soil and I build that soil up. Thankfully these guys, they don't really require much. They love Florida's sandy soil. So to start this kind of garden is incredibly cheap. But let's say you want to start growing vegetables in a garden like this. So I'm going to assume that what we're going to do is an 8-foot length garden bed, and it's going to have 2 rows of each. The rows need to be about 1 to 2 feet apart, and then you need space on either side so that you can harvest from it. So we're probably looking at about an 8 by 6 foot area. Because we're down here in Florida and most of our soil is very sandy, I am going to assume that we're going to need to put compost in here. There are great places where you can get compost from. I have bought from Whitwam Organics a number of times, and I really do like theirs for starting out. I love mine, creating my own. It is inexpensive, and I feel like it just has so much more nutrients than anything you're going to ever buy in the store. But leading back to our assumptions that we talked about in the beginning of this video, I wanted to make sure that you could get all of this stuff from the big box store. So what I picked for this particular in-ground garden is Black Cow. Now Black Cow is $6.49 a bag, and you're going to need 8 bags, about 1 bag per foot. And you're going to take the sandy soil and dig it kind of double dig, so that way you loosen up the soil, and then you lay the black cow on top, and then you rake it in so that you're mixing the sandy soil with the black cow soil. That is where the highest expense comes from. So that comes out to $51.76. Next thing you need still is fertilizer, same one that we've used through all of the different gardens. That's $11.97. You'll need 4 cages because we're going to be growing very similar to how we're growing in the raised bed, and that is 4 cages at $4.98 equals $19.92. The seeds are the same, 3 at $1.69, 3 at $1.99, but for the mulch, you're going to need 6 bags. And the reason why you need so much mulch is that you're going to need to mulch the walkways, and you're going to need to mulch the rows, the 2 long rows that we have. And the reason why you do that is, number one, so that you can keep the grass that's all around from creeping into your garden. If the grass creeps in, it's going to eat all the nutrients. You're going to have a poor harvest. So we need to mulch the walkways on each side, mulch the walkway down the center, and mulch the 2 rows. So 6 bags. And that is going to equal about $17.82 for that. So altogether, the cost for this one is $112.51. If you have good soil already, you don't need to buy the black cow, or maybe you can buy half as much, or maybe just plant it directly in the ground and see what happens. Maybe it has enough nutrients in it, or maybe you can fertilize enough that you don't have to add those things. And then other things like adding pavers and stuff like that, pretty mulch, you don't have to do all that. You just need to be able to grow food to get your return on investment, and then you can take that investment that you saved and reintroduce it and, buy other things that you need to expand your garden. That's actually how I built out my entire garden. So let's talk about how much you can harvest in a space like this. So if we're 8 foot long with 2 rows, we're going to start with lettuce. We're going to do 4 square feet with 4 in each, so it's 16 plants. You're going to get $94.74 back from that one. We're going to do 2 kale plants, and so that's going to equal $11.96. The sugar snap peas, we're going to do, looks like 4 square feet, and we're going to do 8 in each, so 32 plants at $93.05 of savings. We're going to do 2 sweet pepper plants, $7.98 of savings. We're going to do 2 cherry tomato plants, and that's going to give us $72.76 of savings. And then we got the cucumbers back, so we're going to do 2 square feet with 2 in each, so that equals 4, and that's a savings of $16.56. So if our total cost was $112.51, our total savings is $297.05. You can get your return on investment on an in-ground garden in a month and a half. So based on this big exercise that I did, if you found it helpful, please head down and give me a thumbs up for this extra effort and way too much math. So what we learned from this exercise is you can get your return on investment back pretty quickly. Another really good thing that we found through this process was that the cheapest way to start the garden is either individual containers or directly in the ground. Those are the 2 are the easiest. However, the in-ground has a very short return on investment of just a month and a half, while the individual container takes about 4 months return on investment. Now, the one with the best ROI is the raised bed, and it's mainly because of the intensity of growing in a raised bed. You can grow a lot more plants in a lot shorter space because of the amount of nutrients in that particular bed, and it's held in there and it doesn't go anywhere. So you get a higher productivity out of the raised bed. A close second is the in-ground garden here. You can get a really good return on investment. Both of these came in right at a month and a half return on investment. So those 2 are excellent picks. Probably one of the biggest things that I learned from this exercise was soil is what costs the most. So anything that you can do to reduce the cost of your soil is going to reduce that initial investment. And some of the things that you can do is composting. You could start that now and have a compost, and you can build it with nothing except for the scraps from inside your house and just create a mound somewhere in your yard. You don't need a fancy tumbler, you don't need a special container, although I have heard that there's many counties out there that have programs that will give you free containers if you come to a class and learn about composting. They'll give you free containers. I believe St. Pete is one of those if you're a friend down in St. Pete. So besides compost, you can also do things like when I fill my raised bed, I'll put the video at the end of this video. I usually put like a ton of sticks and leaves and grass clippings and all kinds of free stuff that I find around my yard. I shred up and ball up my junk mail and throw it in there, and so that creates a bottom layer that's going to break down and basically become compost in place. And then I only have to fill up half the bed. I don't need to fill up all of the bed with good dirt right at the start. It does mean you're going to have to refill it over time because the stuff that wasn't broken down in the bottom will break down and it will compress and everything will sink, so you'll have to keep adding. You can also reduce the cost of filling any of these soils with buying compost or soil from your counties or from garden nursery shops. They sell them in bulk and they can have them delivered, although delivery is generally the place where they make the most money off of those. So if you can pick them up with a truck, that's going to save you a ton of money. Although it's a lot of work. It's a lot of sweat equity into those particular ones. I have done it. I think it is the best way, but yeah, be prepared. Don't do it in summer. It's too hot. Now, the one that had the longest return on investment was really surprising to me. I didn't expect this. It was the individual containers. It took 4 months. Now, 4 months in the grand scheme of things is not a lot of time. 4 months is a very short amount of time when most people expect to get a return on investment on a project within 1 year. All of these came short of that. All of these came up much quicker. So 4 months is not a bad return on investment. However, it was the individual containers, and I really chalk this up to the fact that the intensity of how much you can grow in a container is limited as compared to some of the other ones like the InGround, the vertical Greenstalk, and then the raised beds. Another thing that I took away from this exercise was I don't spend that much money anymore. I do buy fertilizer once, maybe twice a year. I do buy it in bulk to get the best price. I buy mulch every couple of years if I don't have, if I don't go down to my local county who gives away mulch for free. But if I don't do that and I don't do chip drop and I actually buy a couple bags, I will pay for that throughout the year. But I have noticed that once you get the system set up, once it's in place and you're adding compost that you make at home, you're adding organic mulches like grass clippings and leaf litter, and maybe you chip your own trees at home. If you do all those things, you're not going to be spending money every single year like you did with your first investment. So maybe it takes 4 months to get your first investment on some of these, but next year it's probably about 95% savings. And then you can take what you save at the grocery store and feed it back into your garden to make it bigger, to make it prettier, to make it however you want. And it will continue to save you. And every year the soil gets better. Every year the ecosystem that you're building is getting better and healthier and everything. And that just feeds the plants and makes it more healthy. And then your production starts to go way up. And that means your savings go way up. So if you are still not bought on this idea, I understand. How about you do this? Instead of picking one of the 4, just go grab one container and grow a tomato that seems to have one of the highest ROIs. Grow one tomato in one container with 1 bag of dirt, and you will get your return on investment probably 4 times with that one container. But keep track of it. The only way that you're going to know that you are actually saving money is if you keep track of how much you're bringing in, and then it kind of opens your eyes to the fact that, hey, I am really saving a lot of money this way. I really enjoyed hanging out with you guys in the garden today. I'm going to pop up those videos that I talked about earlier up right now so that you can check those out next. Happy gardening, guys.